Okay, now you already identify who is your key stakeholder, right, in your fishery management unit. So that is very important to involve them in our EFM planning process. And this is you already know, Dr. Dilek already explained. So now in the startup, we need to identify who is our key stakeholder. And then we need to encourage them to participate with us, to involve in the management process. So if you see in the plan, we have 3 steps. The first one, we need to know where is our FMU, Fishery Management Unit. And then, so we identify and prioritize the issue. As we know, we have many problems, many issues. So what is the priority issue? So we need to solve first. And after that, we develop the plan. And then we get the EFM plan. And then we implement and check and improve. And then we go in the cycle again. Yes. And please don't forget the reality check 1 and 2. To know that our plan is go in the right track. I mean, can we achieve our goal and also achieve our vision. So this is the EFM plan that I would like to introduce you. And before I finish my session, could you please turn on the at the resort guide? I mean, in the small one, on page number 8. Number 8. Yes. In this one, I would like you to think about that in the EFM process. So, what is your role in the planning process? I mean, in the step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, what is your role in this process? And then can you write or record in the book? Yes, and then please discuss in your group. I mean, please share with your friend. Yes. By individual. And then discuss. Let's share with your friend. Yes.
All right. Just looking around, a couple of examples. Some people said I was from a research institute. I would say, that's right. The research institute, you'd certainly be involved in setting the background to the plan. You'd be involved in the issues and the prioritization, probably not so much as implementing, but you'd be involved in monitoring and providing evaluation. Just for example, so you as an individual, somebody else might be involved in the whole process, managing the planning, the implementation, and the monitoring. Just from your point of view, and we're going to end the day sort of saying, okay, what are you going to do now when you go back to your job? So we just starting to think about where I sit. Okay, good, thanks for that. Yep. A little bit more theory now. I know we're going fast, and it's all looking down, but that's the idea. Okay, I said this morning that we need people skills to be able to carry out this process. And none of us are really trained that well to have those people skills. You probably get your best training at home, dealing with your family. Especially those of you who have children, you have good people skills. However, you also need them in this type of work. Participation of people is at the heart of EAFM. The more people participate in this planning process and implementation, the better the result's going to be. So you need to engage your stakeholders right throughout the process. They need to be involved at the beginning. I see a lot of participation of people writing a plan, taking it to people and saying, here's the plan. It's not participatory. You need to know how to facilitate, how to deal with conflict, and how to negotiate. Again, this co-management, you're already doing quite a lot of this. It's all to do with coordination, cooperation, negotiation, and joint decision making. People come to a consensus about what they want to do for their fishery. We've had a look at this, and all of you came up with many, many stakeholders. The challenge is how to engage those people. My advice is always start off with anybody that's interested. Have a meeting with those people. You will find that over a few months, only some will be still with you because they've decided that it didn't really affect them. Don't forget the inspectors, the Navy, the compliance, the people that, not the freshwater, the law enforcers, water resources, NGOs. In our 1 week course, we spend about half a day actually practicing how to facilitate and how to get those trade-offs and how to get people empowered so they own the decision at the end of the day. And most importantly, trust. Initially, fishermen or land users don't trust the government. You have to work and build up that trust. Just a few things about a facilitator. They're all common sense, I think. Don't be intrusive. Be neutral. Make sure everybody has a chance to speak. Build rapport and trust. Has anybody seen the term active listening before? No? Active listening is not just sitting there. Active listening is actually communicating back. Oh yes, I've heard what you said. Okay, I'm actively involved in a communication. These are all skills you need to develop. Don't dominate. Believe in people. I think that's an important one. The people you work with will come up with solutions much better than your solutions. Be flexible, listen, and promote learning. And don't impose your own ideas on the stakeholders. Not easy to do. So we have meetings, workshops, focus group discussions, interviews, questionnaires, surveys. These are all ways of getting stakeholder input. I think at this level, focus group discussions are going to be very important. And that's a group of people that you bring together, a fairly small group that you can work with, and normally they are in conflict. I want a dam, I want fish. Okay, and you work with these people to try and get some sort of an agreement. at each other to actually physical conflict. Is it bad? No. Conflict is the way, the opportunity you have to actually start resolving some of these things. People tend to resist change, and over time you'll see people change and be less conflicting. I quite like this little model. We all go through these stages. The first stage is denial. Not my problem, it's not me. Then there's resistance. Oh, I'm not sure about this. And then say, okay, well, let's go with it, a bit of acceptance. And at the end, commitment. How long do you think a process like that would take with stakeholders building a plan? A year? Yeah, possibly. About at least a year to go from denial to commitment. We need to learn how to manage conflict. And the keys to that are, again, active listening, asking the right questions, and then trying to get people to move together to come to some sort of an agreement. Yeah.
So how do you deal with the conflict that come from the ideological conflict, you know?
I think we all have our own belief system, and mine is going to probably be different from yours. However, I think if somebody can manage that and ask you what your beliefs are, ask me what mine are, we might have something in common, and you can start moving forward.
I raise this issue particularly when it comes to the difference between development and conservation.
That's what it's all about. Okay? Why do you want to conserve? Why do you want to develop? Ask questions, and then hopefully bring people together. There's usually some common ground. There's always a misbelief, I think, that the environment and fishing are in conflict. But normally fishermen want a good environment so they can catch fish. So the environment and fishing comes together quite easily. Some of these other, like water use, irrigation, they're going to be more difficult to manage. But it has to be done. Okay?
Again, on this slide, when we talk about win-win, the resource is so limited.
I think in inland fisheries, there's going to be a big win and a small win. But at least you get a small win, okay? You're not in a very good bargaining position as a fishing sector in inland fisheries, as you know. But you're looking for some solutions to some of these problems, like maintaining water flow or keeping the dams filled to a certain level of things that you can work together on. Yeah.
Always very useful is to build alliances. Build alliance with other people who have the same interest as you have, so you kind of increase your voice. In practical terms, that can very well make the big difference, whether you talk alone or you have allies who talk like you.
I mean, I do a lot of this, and I go into a meeting thinking, what happens if someone asks me a question? What solution am I going to offer? I never have to. They come up with the solutions themselves. They say, well, why don't we try rotating our fishing boats? Or why don't we try different gear? Why don't we do this? And the people themselves come up with some win-win solutions. Again, as a facilitator, you'll see me asking lots of questions. I'm doing that to try and move us forward. Start people thinking or giving you some ideas. So, a very short presentation. You require skills in facilitation, conflict management, and negotiation. Those of you who are are in charge of an agency, I ask you the questions. How good are your staff in these skills? Do you think they can go and talk to people and facilitate an agreement? Some people do this every day for their job. I find people that are more involved in office work usually don't do these things particularly well. The people out in the field talking to communities are very good at this. Just leave you with that thought. How good are... There's no real training. I quite often try to get universities to get interested in some of these training skills. It's something we need to learn. Any comments, questions?
Should be some of the competency of the MRC staff for all this participation in conflict negotiation, I think.
I promise short comment. This is absolutely right, but I think this is not what you can apply, or this you should apply in everywhere, but you have to consider the social and cultural context, because in some societies conflict management is different. Some societies, for example, if you go to Africa, everything will be discussed until it's solved. In other hierarchical societies, the guy below will never challenge the decision of the guy on top. So you have to consider in what social cultural context you are in order to adapt these tools.
Exactly. In every country that I do this in, I could tell you about how they do it. India, they tend to, the person who speaks the longest tends to win. He just keeps talking. In my country, most of our fishermen are from Greek or Italian origin, and they are very aggressive. And I've been held by the throat several times, you know, come on, give me the answer. So they get very excited. Then as they calm down and start talking, again, all the synergy, it just emerges. It always surprises me. Okay, so that's a quick introduction that we need all these skills, and the best way to learn these skills is to go and do it by doing and making mistakes and learning by those mistakes. But again, be neutral, try and facilitate. Don't give them the answer. We're from the government, we're here to help you. Well, I'm the expert, I know. Yes, that's the other one. Okay, where are we going for time? Yeah, we're going a little bit. In our 5-day course, we do a lot of role play. Everybody takes a different role, and we create conflict by being a irrigation farmer, a hydro dam person, and we create and then you as a person have to try and resolve those things, and it's it's good fun, and you learn a lot by doing it. Any questions about people skills? I just threw that in because I see it as neglected quite often in fisheries management. Elise says it's taken for granted that we can all do this, but I don't think that's true. Yeah, no, but I don't think we can do it very well. We've all got a lot to learn. Okay, we'll move on to the last topic before afternoon break, which is talking about governance framework. Again, this is a marine example. So when you watch this little animation, think about how it applies to your catchment area or your basin, wherever you work.
Okay, we will start show you the animation. No, please.
EAFM governance frameworks. To develop, implement and monitor an EAFM plan, it is essential to have an effective governance framework. Different countries will have their own jurisdictional boundaries that extend into the sea. For example, there may be districts, provinces, and national boundaries such as an exclusive economic zone. Frameworks are needed to assist in the cooperation and coordination of EAFM, both across districts and provinces, inshore and offshore areas, and international waters. Within and across these jurisdictions, you may have fisheries close to the shoreline, such as those based on mangroves and seagrass, that need to be managed locally. There will be small schooling fish, demersal fish, and large pelagic fish, many of which will cross jurisdictions. Fish are not often managed from an ecosystem perspective, even though they frequently cross over man-made boundaries. If the fisheries or resources cross into someone else's jurisdiction, you can minimize conflicts in resource usage and management through EAFM. There are many different users of marine resources. There are both small and large-scale fishers, recreational users, or tourists, shipping and other competing users. There may also be land-based activities that may impact the fisheries and marine ecosystems through sedimentation and pollution. These activities can destroy the habitats and kill fish. Other longer-term changes, such as climate and ocean change, also need to be considered. In order to mitigate conflicts and impacts and to adapt in the face of change, it is critical that frameworks be put in place to facilitate co-management and cooperation across sectors, as well as across jurisdictions and levels of government. So what sort of governance framework is needed? Let's say that there are 4 levels of organisation in a country: community, district or municipality, provincial or state, and national. The governance framework that is needed will depend on the type of fishery being managed. In this example, we will build a framework based on a large area that covers both small-scale and large-scale fishing. At the community level, you will need some sort of coordination, perhaps among village committees, or VCs. These village committees could then link together at the district level, where there could be a Management Advisory Committee, or MAX, or District Fisheries Consultative Groups, that include representatives of village committees. These district MACs would advise on all aspects of fisheries management, including compliance and enforcement across their districts. At the provincial level, there could be one overarching MAC that coordinates the district MACs in terms of policy, planning and implementation of plans. These provincial MACs would report to the Department of Fisheries, that is at the centre of the governance framework. At the national level, there should be a mechanism that coordinates key sectors influencing fisheries management and/or impacting the fisheries. an overarching body, such as a council, could oversee the governance framework and provide high-level policy direction and decision-making. Obviously, there are many variations to this framework. Next, who is involved in the governance framework? All relevant stakeholders, including fishers, governments, civil societies, and others, need to be represented at all levels. They are all linked through an EAFM process and the overarching governance framework. Lastly, it is important to look at the national government. In a typical ministry, there is likely a Department of Fisheries. Within this department, there will be a number of divisions or sections. It is important that these include monitoring, control and surveillance, and fisheries management. Having a well-staffed fisheries management section is critical to coordinate EAFM across the departments. In summary, we can see that we need a lead agency, such as the Department of Fisheries, to set up an effective governance framework that enables coordination and cooperation, both vertically, across the different levels of government and society, and horizontally across different user groups.
There he is.
Very good. Very good for few minutes to not to sleep, but I catch the word from this is sound of our colleagues, Sylvia. Yes, I catch the word that in EAFM, because EAFM we focus on holistic planning, holistic implementation. That means stakeholder is quite various. It's quite various. It's not only the fisheries, hydropower, water management, and fishery itself, various kind of the stakeholders, starting from the fisher until marketing company, something. In focus in the government frameworks, there is the coordination, collaboration in vertical levels, from top to down to ground, and horizontal level also among the agency in the same area or the same FMU or something that we use the word. This is what I learned from this animation. And this is marine, make for marine, the training course. But now we staying in the inland fishery. Do you think this animation is good enough to use with the inland? May I ask some comment? Because we are going to modify them to use in inland EAFM. If you look animation, understand well.
As I see it, I think in inland fisheries management, the land-based interlinkages and activities become more important than in marine fisheries. In marine fisheries, as one line, for example, in the Pacific, they use this reef-to-ridge thing. In inland fisheries, you should more think of concentric influences, because normally inland fisheries are surrounded by land, so land becomes more important.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Are there any more comment? Yes. After you.
I'm just saw your last slide. You put there are two yellow section, and one section is the MCS unit, and the other one is the management unit. That I have never seen that structure have a management unit under DOF. I have never seen. Yeah, something like that. It should be managed by DG, something like that, or no the other section for management unit like that. I did not see. Yeah.
Can I comment on that? Countries that are doing well in fisheries management, in my experience, have a fisheries management unit. Sometimes a commission. For example, in Australia, we have a fisheries management authority. There's a whole structure of fisheries managers. I'm quite often asked why we know all about EAFM, but we're not implementing it. Why? And my usual observation is nobody in the department that's there with that job to implement it. So it's just a structural issue. And we're not saying it's the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it, but I think leaders need to start thinking about the structure of the... I know the Department of Fisheries in Thailand now have a new section on illegal fishing and with fisheries management type functions. So it's an evolving structural change that I think I'm just sort of throwing in. Does that answer your question?
Okay, our Vietnamese colleague, please.
Thanks for your presentation. We for marine capture fishery, but for inland fishery, I think it's more complicated because the same water resource, many sectors linked together, use the same water resource. Another thing, I think most of the inland fishery is the small scale. And the back tie of the farmer like a fisher there, and maybe at the same rice field, but during flood season is the fisher can catch there, but another reason is the farmer they do the rice field. So maybe they can share together that the same resource. It's why I think that the more involved in especially for another sector like irrigation or something like agriculture, they also use resource. I think this might be more involved, more many sectors, not only at the community level, but also for the planning level among the sectors. For fishery, they need to make consultation with the like agriculture or water resource development, so on. So I think this may be inter ministry level or central level also. Yeah? Okay.
Yes. Thank you. P. Mac.
Thank you, Matt. Sorry for not being here this morning, because we had another meeting. Another meeting is possible. There's another part of management. But I think one element where there's quite a big difference, a little bit in the same line as Trong was mentioning, is that the complexity. And in one way, you don't really have the high sea in a way. You cannot expand outwards. And when you expand further, you will enter into another country. As you don't really have that wilderness where you can, and also with the mentioning as the kind of strange thing with the conflict of environment, conservation, and development. In development, in marine, you can make investments in larger vessels. In inland fisheries, to protect inland fisheries, you should avoid investments in a strange way. So it's the whole management function is a bit more complex, and it's difficult to have a fisheries management unit for inland fisheries that only look at fisheries. That have a mandate and also sometimes some resources to kind of manage things within the area. So that's perhaps some just modifications would be needed.
EAM is really the integrated management of land, water, and fishery resources, more closer than the environment. Yeah.
I think there's also a technical difference concerning MCS. I think in inland fisheries, especially of smaller water bodies, the usual instruments like VMS will not be cost efficient, so you have to think about alternative ways, for example, community-based monitoring, control and surveillance, or other feasible and cost-efficient ways. And I would like to underline what Magnus just said. Don't invest in inland fisheries, or let's investment in inland fisheries